Sci-Fi there, YouTube. This is SEL0320 representing JVS. Believe it or not, I just finished my spoiler-filled review for the movie I'm about to review now, Blair Witch. This is a sequel to the 1999 The Blair Witch Project, which was a cult icon horror flick. It was all through Handycam, like those old JVC cameras they used to have back in the day, and it left a lot for the interpretation. A lot of people didn't like it. Some people really truly appreciated it. Movies like Paranormal Activity, Cloverfield, and other movies have spawned on since it. So in its own right, it is a cult classic. So this will be my non-spoiler review. Don't have to worry about any spoilers. If you want to check that out, I don't know when I'm going to post my spoiler review. I might be tonight. It might be a week before the release. I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of time to marinate, but let's go ahead and get into this. So, the Blair Witch movie, 2016. It was directed by Adam Wingard. He directed VHS 1, 2. He directed a couple episodes for Outcast with Robert Kirkman. He understands the horror genre, and I think that he extended this world pretty well. I think he paid homage in a lot of different respects. Even with like the tight-knit cast, it's only a cast really about 6 people. But I'll go ahead and get into it. I'm not going to read a synopsis because I want you to go into the movie from your own interpretation of what you feel from it. If you go and look at the original one, you might appreciate it more. If you enjoy the original, I can definitely say you're going to enjoy this movie. But as far as the cinematography, as far as the sound editing, I think they did a good job with the cinematography, because what they did is they blended in a lot of different technologies now that they have in terms of camera work, as far as even with microphones, because the entire cast, they are outfitted with these different headpieces that look like little Bluetooth devices, but they have like small cameras, and the microphones work really well. They've got a GPS device to actually be able to pinpoint where they're at. They've got a drone that actually be able to elevate. And I gotta say, the camera angles that they were able to get, utilizing the practical effects of the trees falling and moving, going underground, going into the air, running, like they did a good job. Like, I mean, especially outside. I mean, it's really easy to see with, you know, Paranormal Activity, like in a house, like doing stuff. But in the outside, there's a lot of different things that could go wrong. There's a lot of different rigging and things you need to do. Even with the post-editing, as far as with the sound bites, it takes a lot of work. And I can appreciate the way they actually did this. They did a good job with as far as the cinematography for this movie. I'll say the soundtrack is 0 to nil. It's really just kind of like a documentary like the original one. I'll say as far as the acting. Now, the actors, it's not... The actors make so many dumb mistakes that you can't take them real seriously as far as the immersion of feeling like this is real. Because in a lot of realistic standpoints, like the character Peter, for instance, is played by Brandon Scott. Peter probably would have left a long time ago because he's a huge friend to the main character, which he doesn't even feel like a main character, in James Allen McCure. I think that's a McCune, I'm sorry. James is the brother to the sister that was from the Blair Witch Project 1 that went missing, and that's where this movie kind of platforms itself out. I will say that James, when he's on screen, he does a good job. He's got a really interesting stage presence. He just didn't do too much for me as far as believing him as the main character. I felt like everybody was kind of a main character. For more than anybody, it was the character Peter. Because Peter's the one that kind of platforms to try to help his friend and do all this. And then you got characters such as Lisa and Ashley that are kind of there as a support system. Lisa more so for the filmography standpoint of trying to relive what these people lived through. And James, I think his perspectives is really convoluted in terms of just his character. And that might be in the writing. It just didn't make sense, especially where the movie ends, where he goes with it. But I mean, for what it was, it's just a normal kind of cast. The ones that were probably the most interesting were the ones you probably would expect, which is Valerie Curry, who's from The Following, plays the role of Talia, and then Wes Robinson plays the role of Lane. Their characters are just shady, and you don't know what their agenda is. You don't know how they're dealing with what's going on in the woods in connection to the group. And I think that if they weren't in there, the movie would be very much so just cookie cutter. Like, it would be very standard. It's sad that they have to be the one that pushes that platform, but at the same time, they add to these characters, I don't know, their situation they're going through. I don't want to spoil anything. It's really hard. But let's go into the story. So the story itself, like I said, it piggybacks off of what happened in the original with what happened to his sister. They get into the woods, and as you would expect, things, you know, start to recreate themselves. They start to unfold. The thing that I like about this one, kind of like the movie Chronicle, they take their time with it. The very beginning, you know what I'm saying, like, you wouldn't expect where they get to with how they shoot it. Because in the beginning, you know, it's just a tight-knit group of people. Like, they are going over the footage. They see this one interesting thing, and it's like, is that my sister, you know? And I think that the way that it starts is paced very well, you know? It's just the decisions that these characters make in terms of the plot, it's just recycled. Because in every horror movie, you know, there's people that just make stupid mistakes. You know, they put themselves in situations that are compromising. From an entertainment standpoint, it's good. And that's where I have to say the movie, it platforms itself very well. Like, this is going to cater to a huge following of people that enjoy the original Blair Witch, or people that just really want to be scared, people that want to have jumps, people that want to kind of have their skin crawl. But for those real tight-knit, you know, horror buffs that know movies that really do truly scare you, or know certain things that can really entice you from a supernatural standpoint, they might find this kind of like C-level, you know. But I think that the general audience, I think they're going to actually eat this up very much so. And I think that the way that I internalized when I was watching it, I was kind of like, I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't scream. There was some people behind us that was screaming. There was girls around me that was like freaking out. And it might have been, you know, how the crowd kind of brings you in. But I have to say, there's a lot of tension-driven things that happen in the woods. It just comes from a real stupid place as far as the characters, as far as the actors are concerned. And that's, like I said, that's all written into the play, that's written into the plot. And it's just kind of fleshed out that way. And the way that the original goes is the way that this goes. It's just, they have a lot more technology. The practical effects are used very well. Oh my gosh. There's a couple moments towards the end, you're like, start rooting for certain characters. And I think that's where the plus side comes in, because I was thinking, it's like, I don't really care necessarily about these characters. There's not one specific primary character like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be James, but it really isn't like that. So I think that from an entertainment standpoint, from a scare tactic standpoint, I think that they're going to do a really good job. But by far, the movies I looked at before, which is Don't Breathe, is a far more elaborate and better movie in the regard that this is not something that was recycled. But from an entertainment standpoint, people that really did enjoy the genre of Blair Witch, the Blair Witch Project, I think they're really going to actually enjoy this movie. So with that, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. If I had to do it just critically, as a critic, as a movie, it'd probably be a 5 out of 10. But for this actually being a scary movie and a horror film, that's what I'm going to leave it at, 7 out of 10. Hope y'all enjoyed this non-spoiler review for Blair Witch Project. Actually, I'm sorry, just a Blair Witch 2016 movie. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't going to stop. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.